What if Pokemon who don't evolve got new evolutions? I explored this idea with some fakemon designs of my own in a previous video, and you guys really enjoyed it, so we are here to explore it again today. I've got some new evolutions of my very own to share, so let's go ahead and check it out. Let's go ahead and start this video off with some trees, because if we didn't have trees, we'd be in a lot of trouble. For a limited time, I am running a promo through my merch store, HoopsandHipHop.com, where for every purchase of my Folkachi plushie, a tree will be planted through the Eden Reforestation Projects. This is an organization that works to plant trees and provide jobs to the communities in which they serve. They plant trees, they hire people to plant and maintain those trees, which ultimately supports local people in need and also helps to combat climate change at the same time. It's a super good cause, and to help out, all you gotta do is get yourself an adorable, soft and squishy, super high quality plush of my mascot Folkachi, which also supports the channel and my ability to do more cool merch stuff just like this in the future. That is like a win-win, win-win-win-win-win all the way around. So pick up a plush at histrobishop.com with the link in the description below and help to support the channel and help plant some trees. And a huge thank you to everyone who has picked one up so far. It is super duper appreciated. Okay, so we're gonna start things off here with Mimikyu, and if Mimikyu got an evolution, I imagine that it could be something like this. Meet Mimikry, the disguise Pokemon. The concept behind this one is pretty straightforward, and it's that since Mimikyu is so Pikachu themed, since it wants to be as popular as Pikachu, a Mimikyu evolution could potentially be Raichu themed in order to further that connection. The story behind Mimikry could be that Mimikyu was so desperate to be accepted and loved like Pikachu that it ended up evolving in the process and could no longer fit underneath a Pikachu disguise, so it has now started using a Raichu disguise instead. It is still a ghost fairy type just like Mimikyu, but to switch things up, I've decided to give it a fun new ability known as Imitation. Since Mimikyu's disguise ability is so good, I figured if I was going to replace it, the new ability better bring the heat, and I believe this one does in a really fun way. Imitation would follow the concept behind Mimikry by giving this Pokemon the battle properties of an electric-type Pokemon just like Pikachu and Raichu. So it would still be Ghost and Fairy type, but defensively would operate as an electric type. I feel like this would be really neat, as it would more or less give Mimikry 3 types, which is an idea that's obviously intrigued people for a while. Additionally, since electric types only have one weakness in ground, I feel like this could also help this Pokemon in battle as well. As a result, though, it may not gain stab on its Ghost and Fairy type moves, depending on how you want this ability to work and whether or not you wanted the ability to account for offense as well as defense. But overall, that might be a trade-off that you more or less have to make in order to balance this ability out. You guys will have to let me know what you think in the comments, though. However, I'm sure this Pokemon could compensate for this if we did it this way by learning a couple of electric type moves as well. Name-wise, Mimikry comes from Mimic and Raichu, and also sounds a little bit like mimicry for good measure. And since we've definitely got to give it an evolution method as well, I think what I would do is have Mimikyu evolve when it was traded with and or given the Reaper Cloth. First off, this mimics Pikachu evolving with the use of an item into Raichu, and second, given that this is a ghost-type Pokemon item that also involves Cloth, I felt like it was an absolute perfect fit for these Pokemon. The only minor issues are that, as of right now, this item is an evolution item for Dusclops exclusively, but I don't think expanding it to other Pokemon would be out of the realm of possibility, and I also would rather that you just have to give the Reaper Cloth to Mimikyu than having to also trade it, but since that is exactly how the Reaper Cloth functioned in Legends Arceus, that could possibly be doable as well, and overall, I think this would make for an awesome evolution of an already great Pokemon. Next up is another iconic and gimmicky standalone Pokemon, and that is Smeargle. If Smeargle were to evolve, Colorruff is what I imagine it could evolve into. A huge shout out also goes to Elesteva076, who drew the artwork of the mons that you're seeing in this video, so be sure to check him out with the links in the description below as well. You might be wondering though how exactly a Pokemon like Colorruff could exist, since Smeargle is just so unbelievably gimmicky. All it learns is Sketch, which allows it to copy other Pokemon's moves, so how exactly would you build upon that with an evolution? Well, my idea is to basically use this concept and expand it to other facets of Pokemon that Colorruff could copy. So for example, upon evolving, Colorruff would be able to learn a new move known as Scribble, which would allow it to copy the type of its opponent. Additionally, Colorruff would also gain access to the move Doodle, which is currently Grafai's signature move, which would allow it to copy abilities as well, meaning that Colorruff would be able to copy the moves, abilities, and typings of its opponent at any time. I would even give it another signature move as well, known as Resketch, that would gain the effect of the move last used by your opponent, just like Sketch, but it wouldn't permanently learn that move. Resketch would instead simply gain that move's power and effects, and then the next time it was used, it would copy the next move that was last used by your opponent, and so on, allowing for Colorruff's move pool to be ever customizable as well. I know that that is kind of a wild effect for a move to have, but since Sketch permanently changes into the move that it copies, that does sort of become a drawback where you're then locked into that move permanently. So having a move like this that can constantly copy the opponent, like Doodle and Scribble also could, would allow you to essentially pick and choose which parts of a Pokemon you want Colorruff to have. And having these effects in the form of a move would allow you to change things up on the fly, so if you wanted to change types or abilities mid-battle, you could. And giving a Pokemon a completely customizable and interchangeable palette of abilities like this would not only be a ton of fun, but I think would be a perfect next stage for Smeargle to take. Technically, you could say that Smeargle would then just be able to sketch all of these moves itself, but I feel like the idea of a proper evolution is still a lot of fun, and you could also give Colorruff some boosted stats as an evolution to help it feel a little more justified, since Smeargle could definitely use some help in that department. I honestly feel like this could generate a lot of hype as an evolution of a more unique and classic Pokemon, but I think that Colorruff's new abilities would also generate a lot of intrigue and excitement on their own as well. So I feel like overall it would be a great Pokemon to have for marketing purposes in addition to just being a fun Pokemon in general. Moving on though, its name is pretty straightforward, just coming from color in reference to its design and origins, and rough since it's a dog. And then, in terms of an evolution method, I think it could evolve from Smeargle once Smeargle learns Sketch for a fourth time, as that would symbolize that Smeargle has now had enough experience to be able to now evolve and learn these other moves that copy the opponent in different ways. It probably is a bit too gimmicky to happen realistically speaking, but I think that an evolution for Smeargle like Colorruff would nevertheless be a pretty cool and fun thing to see. The next Pokemon we are going to give an evolution to is Skarmory, and it is not here because it is quirky or gimmicky, it is simply here because Skarmory is awesome, and an evolution could be all the more awesome. So meet Skartillery. And it may just be my humble opinion here, but I think Skartillery shows exactly why a Skarmory evolution should happen immediately. The main inspiration for this evolution came from the fact that Skarmory has the term armory in its English name, and its Japanese name, armed, comes partially from the term armed. So there's a bit of a military theme with this Pokemon. I thought that would be the perfect button to push in an evolution by making an evolution that was based around a fighter jet, which was also a perfect fit since Skarmory is already a steel and flying type, which would work perfectly with a fighter jet inspiration. Skartillery is also naturally steel and flying type as well, as you might expect, and all of this is also where the name Skartillery comes from, as it primarily derives from artillery, which is another military-related term that describes large gun-like weapons that are used in warfare. It also comes from Skarmory's name, which includes the letters to the word sky at the beginning and end of the name, which are especially applicable for Skartillery as a fighter jet Pokemon, and it even has the word Scar in its name as well, which gives off even more of that military warfare vibe. For its body shape, it also takes inspiration from pterosaurs in addition to a fighter jet, which you can particularly see in the head and face of this Pokemon, and evolution-wise, this Pokemon feels to me like something along the lines of Primeape evolving into Annihilape, where it learns a new move and then uses that move a certain amount of times in order to evolve. So I would have Skarmory evolve into Skartillery by learning a new move called Buster Wing, and leveling up after using it 20 times. Buster Wing would be a Steel-type move that essentially would be an upgraded version of Steel Wing, more or less, since Skarmory is one of the only Pokemon that can learn Steel Wing by level up. So this upgraded move would be symbolic of Skarmory's upcoming evolution. It would be a 100 base power Steel-type move and would have a different effect to Steel Wing that connects to Skartillery's fighter jet origins. The term Buster is actually a pilot fighter jet type of term that means to go as fast as possible, and as such, Buster Wing's additional effect would be that it always goes first in battle. So that is my overall idea for a Skarmory evolution, and I would love if a real Skarmory evolution turned out to be anything like Skartillery. But what do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts about all of these evolutions in the comments below, and be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you haven't already for more. With that said, I'll be back with another new video very soon, and until then, as always, thanks so much for watching this one, I really appreciate it, and I will smell you guys later.